Good day to you. I'm Sue Johnston, and I'm a retired counselor. And I've started these YouTube videos, and everything is a work in progress. It evolves as you go along. I will be sharing a video today where I go in and I'm cleaning up my art room because I'm actually trying to get a few things put away and prepare for a market that I'm doing this weekend, which is the May 24th weekend of the year 2022, in case this video lasts that long and somebody actually watches it in a different year. And the market is under my business name, which is Art Room Productions, and I'm going to be selling soap and vintage signs. So at the end of the video, I do show my mock-up table, which is always suggested you create your table and you set it all up the way you think it's going to be set up at the market. And I say going to be because you get to the market, you don't always know what your booth, your spot is going to look like. I do know the footage, the space is 10 by 10 and it's indoor in a sports arena. But there's always little things that change the way you might set up your table. But you do have to have some kind of idea in mind. At any rate, I've digressed here. In this video, I'm going to talk about changing the way that you think, which is a way of dealing with stress and burnout. Changing your perspective. I'm going to offer a technique I call the 3 things, and that will help reduce some stress in your life. And what are we going to do? Of course, encouraging the whole getting engaged in something creative. So, here it is in a summary. Watch and, let me know. I'm always interested to know how people manage with stress. I counseled for, a long time, and I heard a lot of stories. And what you gain through listening all those stories is you gain a sense of pattern, people's patterns in life. So I would like to hear your pattern, what you have discovered about yourself in terms of feeling stress, dealing with stress, what works for you, because there's no one solution that fits all. You can't say, here's stress, here's a pill, now you're done. Here's stress, here's the solution, now you're done. It's a variety of things. So I would like to hear what works for you. So watch the video, enjoy it, hear what I have to say, and offer your comments. So you realize that you're feeling stress, or you may feel like you're dealing with burnout. So you say to yourself, almost as an encouragement, or certainly at times as a push, you say, I got to keep going. I have to keep going. Maybe like you see in this video here, there's just so many things in your life, so much clutter. You wanted to exercise, it's not happening. You wanted to sort all these things out, it's not happening. There's just a lot of things to deal with, and you're not sure where to start. And what some people do when they're under stress is they just simply pull back and don't do anything. And so then they get involved in the whole procrastination wheel, and that's not helping anything. So then that adds more weight to your stress. There are no easy solutions to most things that we face in life. When dealing with stress or burnout, we might think about having a complete break, one where we get away for a while, maybe a few days, a long weekend, maybe a vacation. Temporarily, we may feel relief from stress, noting that the change was as good as a rest, to use an old expression. We might feel refreshed at having got away for a few days. But then we find we're back at it, engaged in the things that promoted the stress in the first place. You may know all of this, even more so by experience than knowledge, but stress affects us physically, mentally, and emotionally. When we're under stress, we're more apt to fly off the handle, get angry about something that on a good day it wouldn't bother us at all. It steals away our sleep, leaves us feeling jittery, works against our ability to think, to make logical and sequential decisions. Stress is weighing on us, and everything becomes more difficult with the weight. It has been said that our attitude, our perspective, these things make a difference in terms of how rested we feel or how much stress we might feel. We may not like to think about changing the way we think as a solution. Might think that it's just too simple or it's way too hard to do. But it can help. It helps to shift things in our system. It stirs up more of the positive chemicals that help create balance and peace. Sometimes what people tend to do is they return home from work, they're feeling stressed, and they might just sit in front of the TV, flick the screen on their computer or their cell phone, and they think that, well, I'm engaged in a mindless activity. I don't actually have to do anything. There's nothing required of me. So they view that as relaxing, and there is some benefit to that. But unfortunately, it's not the best solution. Regarding work, if there was one thing that you could point to, one thing to anticipate or think of regarding work that might help you to go in, if there was one thing that gives you a bit of incentive, try to focus in on that. For example, maybe you're thinking about going into work and you're thinking, so-and-so is going to be there, and I like interacting with them. They always make me feel better, even if they don't say anything. And that could be a positive. What helps give us the incentive, the desire to want to go to work and interact in some way, sometimes it's just our perspective and pulling out something that we actually do like. Here's the technique of 3 things. What you do to manage your stress, because in stress mode we're thinking about everything that needs to be done. Just pull out 3 things that you can actually control and have a sense of satisfaction in completing. Maybe it's just putting the pens in the box. Maybe it's just clearing off your desk. Whatever your 3 things are. Maybe it's looking after a particular client at your work, or a file, or interacting and completing some activity at work that needs to be done. Just pick 3 things, because studies have shown us that ideally we can accomplish 3 main things in each of our days. So just focus on that, and usually what happens is you end up doing more than the 3 things. But focusing on the 3 things helps to reduce your stress, because you're changing your expectations about what's going to be done. Okay, I think I can hear people saying, yeah, but my boss wants 10 things done. That's okay. You can acknowledge, yep, boss, you need 10 things done. I get that. But then you, personally, focus on 3 main things that you can do. And sometimes you pick the easiest ones, because that gives you a sense of accomplishment. And, I've got this done. In short, we learn to do life differently. We're changing our perspective, we're changing the way we think about things, and we're actually changing some of our actions, our responses to the things that are causing us stress. Most of the focus of this talk has touched on the idea of changing the way that you think, changing your perspective, and then I've shared the 3 things technique. And that can help relieve some of the stress that we feel. It encourages more positive endorphins. Endorphins is just one of the thousands of chemicals in our system, but it's one of the ones that helps us feel better. I like to think of endorphins as little dolphins jumping up and down in the stream, in the water, having fun, laughing as they go. Well, we assume they're laughing. We can certainly laugh if we watch them. So endorphins is just one of the many feel-good chemicals in your system, and it can help you have a more positive attitude and help you relax. Studies tell us that endorphins interact with the opiate receptors in the brain, which helps reduce our perception of pain. And actually, it's similar to drugs like morphine and cocaine. So we have some of these natural things in our system. With high endorphin levels, we feel less pain and fewer negative effects of stress. Okay, here is one final idea that you might take up and make your own and use it and apply it. Anytime, any way or occasion when you feel good, stop for a moment and think about what's happening. Ask yourself, why do I feel okay right now? Why am I feeling good? What is contributing to my happiness? By asking yourself those questions in various moments when we are feeling at ease and restful and happy, we can begin to identify the things that help lift our mood and help energize us. This is your personal inventory that you can do, the insight that you can gain to help work with your natural inclinations and stir up more positive responses to life to reduce stress. In short, it's your personal plan to help reduce stress. You do a little personal inventory. Why am I feeling good? What's contributing to this? How come I'm feeling happy? When you find out what those elements are, you can repeat them in your life. You can actually bring them out and use them more often. So there are incentives in changing the way we think, changing our attitudes and actions, and getting involved in creative projects. And some of that you've seen in my video here, some of the things that I engage in. So we take note of what works, doing that little personal inventory I mentioned, why am I happy, etc. And no matter how small that item might seem, try to repeat it in your days. Try to look at each day as an entity. It's compartmentalized, a day just on its own. Try not to look too far down the road because things change. They always change. We have a tendency to base our future projections on how we're feeling in the moment. And if it's stress and weariness and lack of energy, we may base all of our future imaginings with those elements as just keeping repeating, going on. Often while we're in the process of trying to figure things out, something happens. Not always a direct result of our actions either. Something changes. And the hope is that the change is good. In the meantime, we do what we can by exercising and changing some of the things, the ways that we're thinking. Sometimes we can change one item in a day, and that can help us feel different. Notes on burnout. Well, it's a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged distress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet the constant demands of each day. Sometimes temporarily, maybe a few weeks, a day, maybe a few months, we can feel the effects of stress like this. Drained, unable to meet demands, overwhelmed, emotional. Many resources recommend getting involved in something creative. Well, in Brené Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, she mentions burnout and suggests that a person gets involved in creative endeavors. And honestly, I read about various studies and comments that people make, and I tend to be, first of all, skeptical. So I have to sort of do my own research and find out what's going on. Why does this work? Why are they making the statements that they have made? So I've analyzed it, why this works, getting involved in something creative. And it seems to be related to the idea of no deadline. If you start a creative project, it's for you. Something not necessarily for sale, but you can do that if you want. There's no manager breathing down your neck, looking over at how well you're doing. really your only critic is yourself, and sometimes you need to silence that and just get on with your project. Some days it's going to work out, some things are going to work out, other days it's not. But you just keep going because you know the benefits of why this helps. When we engage in a creative activity, we are exercising a different area of the brain. I think probably most people know that it has been said and studied, I suppose agreed upon, that the right side of the brain is our creative, intuitive side, and the left side of our brain is the more logical, reasoning side. So when we're engaged in creative activities, we're engaging the right side of our brain more than the problem solving side of the brain, which at the present, if you're dealing with stress and burnout, may be sort of taxed out. Another chemical in the brain is called dopamine. And dopamine helps the nerve endings make connections. And when you're doing a lot of problem solving or you've been ruminating all the aspects of stress, you actually use up your dopamine. Not 100%, nothing is ever used up 100%, but it does get into low supply. And that's one reason if you're still trying to figure out the solution to the problem and how am I going to sort this out and how am I going to make this better, you're using up a lot of dopamine, especially at the end of the day. If you've been problem solving in your work, you're going to find that at the end of the day you're more tired, and that's because your dopamine levels are down. I used to use this expression that the husband would go off to work and he's involved in a problem solving job, and when he comes home, he's a real dope. Basically, because he's used up his dopamine. Focusing on what works, focusing on the positive things in your life, focusing on creative endeavors. It doesn't make us like a zombie, a robot, an ostrich with our head in the sand, ignoring the realities of life. But what it does do is help our system, our brain, our emotions, our physical stance, the chemistry in our body. It helps bring along some of the more positive endorphins and chemicals that can help us cope. Taking on this mindset, reminding ourselves of what we did like about our work or our day or whatever it is that we're thinking about. Maybe it was a difficult with a friend. Thinking about what you did like helps this chemistry in your system. When that happens, we can actually think clearly and potentially have more energy freed up to find a solution to our dilemma or the circumstances that are creating stress in our life. So remember, the way you're thinking about things can change your response to stress and actually help you cope and deal with stress better. Life is not about eradicating stress from our life, because that'll never happen. But it can be about viewing stress a little bit differently and certainly having coping mechanisms to handle the stress. As you may have noticed, I did get my art room straightened up. Everything is not in a perfect spot, but that doesn't matter. Sometimes if you just walk into a room and it's straightened up and the floor place is clear, then it just helped you feel better. This is my stuff ready to go to market.